The moment you've all been waiting for. We are talking about the elasticity of demand and the elasticity of supply and other elasticities in chapter 5. This video, however, is on the elasticity of demand. And I've hinted at it a little bit in chapter 4 when we were talking about how sensitive one person is to price changes. And when we're talking about elasticity, we are really talking about that sensitivity. So elasticity is a measure of how much buyers and sellers respond to price changes. In other words, if there's a price change, what will be the impact on either the quantity demanded or the quantity supplied? Okay, now in this case, in this video, we are talking about demand. Okay, so, and we know because we talked about it, well, hey, if price increases, then what's going to happen to the quantity demanded? Is it going to go up or is it going to go down? Right, it's going to go down. All right, we've already talked about that. We've already talked about the direction. But let's imagine if the price went up by $5. If it increased $5, we are going to be able to tell what will be the reduction in the number of products that will be demanded. Maybe there'll be a decrease of 50. Okay, maybe it'll be a decrease of 100. Anyway, so that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the magnitude of the change. And that's what makes this chapter particularly important. All right, so Netflix is the perfect example. When it was $7.99, I was one of those early subscribers to Netflix. I thought, what a great deal. $8.99, I'm still in. $9.99, I'm still in. But then it went up to $13.99, and I actually canceled my Netflix subscription at that time. It just became too expensive for me. Now, companies, often what they want to do, often what they're focused on, is they're focused on maximizing their total revenue. What is revenue made up of? Right? Well, it's made up of the price of a good times the quantity of a good. Price times quantity. And when they increase the price, what's going to happen to quantity? Well, the quantity demanded will be decreased, right? And so any company, especially like Netflix, which I don't think there's a lot of, for each additional customer that they get, I don't think their costs increased so much. There must be some marginal cost, some additional cost for every customer that they get, increased bandwidth, maybe customer service that they have to spend. But basically, the marginal cost of each additional customer, right, is probably nil. It's not zero, but it's not that high either. So a company like Netflix might be just thinking of total revenue. Let's see what the price is. Let's see how many subscriptions we can sell at that price, and let's try to maximize how much revenue we bring in. Now, obviously, if the effect, right, let's say the effect of a price increase was small, but the effect of the lessening of the quantity that the demanded was big, well, then total revenue would actually decrease in that case. And that would not be something that they would like, right? So they must have done the analysis. And when they went from $9.99 to $13.99, almost like a 40% increase, they must have figured out that the impact of the price increase would be greater than the impact of the decrease in the quantity of subscriptions that they would sell. In other words, that total revenue would in fact increase. Otherwise, why would they do it? Why would they do it? Okay, so that's kind of what we're diving into in this chapter. The price elasticity of demand is the sensitivity one person or a market in general has towards price changes. All right, so this is one of those slides that you definitely want to remember. Pay close attention to this slide, because this slide talks about, well, what kind of factors out there affect a product's price elasticity of demand? What makes products demand more sensitive to price changes or less sensitive to price changes? Number one, availability of close substitutes. If your product has a lot of close substitutes and you increase the price, there's going to be a greater decrease in the quantity that's going to be demanded, right? Let's talk about butter. Okay, butter, the classic example, right? Butter is likely to have a higher elasticity just because there are substitutes to butter, like margarine and other substitutes. So if there's an increase in the price of butter, it's likely to have a large effect on the quantity that is demanded. What about eggs? Are there a lot of close substitutes to eggs? It depends. Some recipes call for eggs. I don't know if you can really substitute that for tofu. Do you want to put tofu in your pancake mix? I don't know. Is that going to work? Anyways, so it's likely that eggs are going to have a lower price elasticity of demand than butter, just because there's not a lot of availability of close substitutes to eggs. EpiPen here is a pretty good example. What they sell it's basically epinephrine. It's an epinephrine and an applicator that you can inject yourself very easily if you're having an allergic reaction that can be life-threatening. If you have a life-threatening allergy to bee stings, for example, you can carry the EpiPen and it can save your life, okay? And at one point in time, there was a competitor to EpiPen. About 10 years ago, there was a competitor to EpiPen, and that competitor went out of business or stopped supplying epinephrine injectors. And so what happened was EpiPen, the owners of EpiPen increased the price of EpiPen somewhere between 400 and 500%. This is in 2007. You can Google it. Anyways, so what we found then, there was not a lot of availability of close substitutes to these epinephrine injectors, and they could increase the price significantly, and it had a minimal impact on the quantity of epinephrine injectors that were demanded. You need them to save your life, and there were no available close substitutes. All right. So number two, necessities versus luxuries. Obviously, if it's something that you need, then it has a lower price elasticity of demand. You need it. So if the price goes up, it's going to have some impact on it. It's going to have some decrease in the quantity that's demanded, but ultimately people still need it. With luxuries, you don't need it. So luxuries, just remember this, luxuries tend to have a higher price elasticity of demand. Then it's also how you define the market as well. If I take, food, for example, food is a very broad definition. There are many different kinds of food. But with food, if the price of food goes up, right, and the price of food in general has gone up, recently, and it's consistently going up, does that mean that less food is demanded? All right, well, perhaps a little bit, but I would say minimal, right? Very minimal. Now, what happens if I define the market here as being bacon? What if the price of bacon increases significantly? Okay, well, in that case, if the bacon price goes up 50%, there's lots of close substitutes to bacon, absolutely. And if I just defined it as being, the market as being just bacon, then the price of bacon goes up, then there will be then bacon will have a higher price elasticity of demand. Bacon is more sensitive to price changes than food is sensitive to price changes. So it does matter how you define the market. Number four, time horizon. Absolutely. So gasoline is a pretty good example. People in their lives, in the long run, can make more adjustments. They can adjust to price changes. So for example, you drive an SUV, I drive an SUV, you might drive an SUV, the price of gas goes up, you got to get to work, you got to do your thing, you got to go get groceries, your life continues. So the increase in price of gasoline by 20%, may not affect the quantity of gasoline that you demand very quickly. But what about in the long run? If it's 20%, 30%, 40%, if the price of gasoline is going up and it's going up in the long run, and you go to decide on the next vehicle that you're going to buy, with higher prices in the long run, you might make your car purchasing decisions based upon these high prices. You might get a more fuel efficient vehicle. People in the long run can make choices that that allow them to adjust how much gasoline they demand. All right, and the next one is share of budget. How much does it cost? Everybody has a salary. You have your rent, you have your how much you pay for gas, how much you pay for groceries, your bills, and you have so much money afterwards, okay, to spend discretionally. Okay, so what happens if there's a 20% increase in the price of chocolate bar? All right, you might demand less chocolate bars. That's absolutely true, but it's not going to have a great of an effect on the quantity you demand as something like vacations, right? Vacations, like chocolate bars cost $1, goes up 20%, $1.20, no big deal. It's a small share of your budget. But vacations, for example, maybe they cost like $4,000 to take your family on a vacation to Mexico or something, right? And so if that increases 20%, now it's like $4,800. Because it has a greater share of your budget, that means that you're going to be more sensitive to price changes of vacations as opposed to chocolate bars. All right, so this is definitely a slide you want to remember. All right, so in computing the price elasticity of demand, the price elasticity of demand is the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in the price. So we often write percentage change, right? Percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in the price, right? And so if we know what if a question or anything gives us what the percentage is, then we can simply divide it and we get the price elasticity of 2. Do you notice that it comes up with a negative number? It's always going to come up with a negative number, right? Because we have price and we have quantity, excuse my cue there, quantity, right? And it's a downward sloping. So as the price increase, what happens to the quantity that's going to be demanded, right? It's going to decrease as well. So it's always going to be a negative number. The price elasticity of demand is always going to be a negative number. What do you think the price elasticity of supply will be? It's always going to be a positive number. The higher the price, the more quantity supplied to the market. Anyways, so with the price elasticity of demand, it's always going to be a negative number. Often we just ignore that negative number. It's always going to be a negative number. All right, everybody. So computing the price elasticity of demand. All right, so PED. In this course, we use the midpoint method in order to calculate the price elasticity of demand. Okay, so let's just say we have whatever we're selling it here for $4. And at $4, we're selling a quantity of 120. So we're here at point A, but then we decide to increase the price and we go up to $6. Okay, what's going to happen to the impact on quantity? Obviously, it's going to go down. The book tells us it's going to be 80, okay, in this case. So the quantity of whatever product we're trying to sell here decreases from 120 to 80, and we're here at point B. All right, so the question is, what is the elasticity of demand then? Well, we can use this formula. And so basically the demand, so we'll just start here in Q2. By the way, this side of the equation is very, very easy, right? This side of the equation, because it's just the average, right? It's just the average. So it's just the average of these two numbers. And so let me show you, okay? So here we go. So Q2 is going to be 80, right? So we move the price from $4 to $6. And so the second quantity here is going to be 80, right? That's the change in the quantity as a result of the price increase. So we have 80 minus 120. And what's the average of 80 and 120? And that's this side of the equation, right? Q1 plus Q2 divided by 2, that's just the average. And I don't have to really calculate that, do I? 80, what's the average between 80 and 120? Okay, well, yeah, it's easy. It's just 100, right? So that's pretty easy. And then our price is going from $4 to $6, right? So here we go. P2 is going to be 6 minus 4. Hey, what's the average between 6 and 4? All right, it's going to be 5. So when we calculate, break out the calculators, guys, pause the video. What do we get? Okay, we get negative 0.4 on the top side and positive 0.4 on the, okay, well, this is a rare instance. All right, but that basically equals 1, or negative 1, but we always just omit the negative number. We can just say that the elasticity is 1, okay, because it's always going to be negative. We always take the absolute value when we're talking about price elasticity of demand. All right, so, and that's called unit elastic. Okay, 1 equals unit elastic, and it's kind of like a it's kind of special. Because, when we look at our total revenue up here in the top right, total revenue equals price times quantity, absolutely. So we have a change in price, and when it's unit elastic, when the elasticity is 1, the effects of a price increase on total revenue will exactly equal the effects of a quantity decrease. Okay, so there will be no change in total revenue when the elasticity is 1, when the elasticity of a product is unit elastic. Let's do a different example, okay? This time I'm going to let you work this out. If the price of stereo speakers goes from $300 to $350, if that results in a decrease in sales from 100 to 80, right? So what is the price elasticity of stereo speakers? Please pause the video and work this out yourself. All right, so now we can see that the price elasticity of demand for stereo speakers equals 1.47. So that is a number greater than 1. Okay? So if we have a price increase, what is the effect of quantity going to be? Because we have a number greater than 1, will a change in price cause a larger effect on quantity? Will it be a larger effect, a larger decrease in quantity than the increase in price? Or will it be a smaller decrease in quantity compared to the increase in price? And because it's a larger number here, we're going to see that it's a larger number, okay? So would you do it then? If you were just considering the equation total revenue, if your goal was to maximize total revenue, right? We're not considering the costs at all. And I understand that. We're only getting part of the picture, right? But if we're just looking at total revenue, what do you think? Is total revenue going to increase or decrease? And therefore, if you were selling stereo speakers and you were looking to maximize total revenue, would you increase the price from 300 to 350 or would you not? Okay, so the answer is you should not. You should not increase your prices if your goal is to maximize total revenue. Last slide of the video. Okay, so now we're going to use the price elasticity of demand. We have the price elasticity of demand. We have an estimate at least, and it says it's negative 0.8. Okay, and so we already know that. Okay, but now we're going to suppose, hey, if I decrease the price, right, by 15%, right, decrease the price by 15%, what will the impact on quantity be? Right, and that's basically, so if we know what the price elasticity of demand is, we can hypothesize like this. And we can see, well, what happens if I change the price? What will happen to the quantity that will be demanded, okay? And I just want to highlight, I guess, that, you know, these formulas are exactly the same, right? I mean, so this bottom row right here, P2 minus P1, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that calculates the percentage change in the price. All right, so the formula is still the same. This basically is the percentage change in quantity divided by the percentage change in price equals the price elasticity of demand. And here we just have, you know, different information, right? Okay, so anyway, so I'm gonna show you guys if we have what the price elasticity of demand is, then how can we use it, right? How can we use it to calculate what will be the impacts of our price changes? All right, so here we go. So pretty easy, right? All you need is your good old algebra, and this will be easier for some of you and a little bit more challenging for others. But anyways, all we have to do is we have to isolate the x, right? So we have to, you know, if this is divided by 15 here on this side, we want to isolate that. So basically on this side, we have to multiply it by 15%. And on this side, we have to multiply it by 15%. We do the same to both sides. And what do we get? We got x equals negative 0.8 times 0.15, 15%. And what are we going to get? Well, x is going to equal 0.12, or we could say 12%. So if we decrease, right, that's the question, if we decrease the price by 15%, what is going to be the resulting impact on the quantity that will be demanded? Well, the resulting impact will be a 12% increase in the quantity that will be demanded. Okay, I always go to total revenue. I always do that because, you know, as a business owner, if you can guess, if you can estimate what your price elasticity of demand is, then you can use this formula, right? Well, let's see. So if I decrease the price by 15%, all right, and then I get an increase in the quantity by 12%. Hey, what's going to be the resulting impact on my total revenue, right? Total revenue is actually going to go down in this case. So you might want to think twice about reducing the price by 15% in this case. All right, guys, moving right along. So if I were you at the back of the book, I would do question number 2 under problems and applications. Practice makes perfect. Bye-bye.